She thumps a cane and drinks champagne. She's formidable and judgmental, but we can guarantee that she's a quintessential Lady D, who recognizes great potential. What would Danbury do?
Welcome to Season 3 of What Would Danbury Do? All Bridgerton, all the time. In Season 1, we revisited the OG Bridgerton 8, working through the book series from The Duke and I to On the Way to the Wedding. In Season 2, we worked through the Happily Ever After epilogues that included the short story Violet in Bloom. Now, that's right, friends, we're talking about Bridgerton. Episode 1 of Season 3 will drop in a fortnight. That's in 2 weeks' time for our North American friends. In the meantime, stick around for a spirited discussion on our viewing experiences and overarching thoughts. This episode of What Would Danbury Do is brought to you by Erica Ridley and her new book, The Duke Heist. You might remember that Erica featured in one of our What Would Danbury Do sections in Season 2, so we're super excited to talk about her Winchester series about a wealthy baron who adopts 5 uniquely talented orphans to fight for justice from the edges of society. Think Leverage with Regency bad guys doing good things, or Robin Hood with characters helping those who cannot help themselves. Your favorite and ours, Julia Quinn, says that Erica Ridley is a delight. Grab your copy of The Duke Heist at your favorite store or visit Erica's website. There's a special bonus for a limited time. If you buy The Duke Heist and register your purchase on Erica's website, she'll send you a bonus Winchester novella. Visit Erica Ridley, that's ERICARIDLEY.com. And as a super special bonus, stay tuned after this episode for a sneak peek from the audiobook of The Duke Heist. Don't forget that you can join us on Twitter and Facebook as @Bridgerton Pod and Instagram as @WWDDpod, and join the conversation using the hashtag WWDDpod. I was told today by one of my colleagues that as soon as the series dropped, all of the libraries here in Australia got ebook editions of the 8 original stories that they never had before. So even, I know bookstores were selling out, like nobody could keep these books on the shelves, but at least the libraries
Some
were
on eBay selling copies for like $700.
What? Mine are signed. How much
out.
do you think mine are worth?
Mine is signed too, so cha-ching.
Only one of mine is signed, but it's personal.
Well, I mean, mine are all signed to me personally as well, but like I have 2 children and they need to go to college, so...
I'm sure there's lots of Kates.
There's got to be like a million Kates out there. Let's be real.
Well, yeah, harder when you're a Rudi.
I agree, Rudi. You're stuffed, but also you don't have kids to put through college yet, so
no, that's true. But this is the weirdest medium to put this call out. But if we know each other personally, and you have always wanted to read these books, but you either can't get a hold of a copy or can't be bothered buying your own, hit me up because I'm happy to mail it. I want it back. I definitely want it back. But I will lend out my copy to people that I know personally.
One of the most charming expressions I ever heard, and it was one of the first things that I heard when I moved to Australia, was this concept of a boomerang book. Somebody who said, I'm really happy to loan you this book, but just be aware that it's a boomerang book. All it means is that the book has to come back. It's not one of those books that you borrow indefinitely and then, we're not friends anymore and you forget about it. Yeah, no.
A boomerang that comes back is an unsuccessful boomerang. It's a hunting tool that should have hit the thing on the head and then stopped. If it came back, you missed.
So what I'm hearing from this is that I could have kept that fucking book.
You should have. If it was a successful book, you should have kept it.
Wow.
That's why I do not call my books boomerang books. I want them back.
Right.
Even the successful ones.
I love you, but I also have a healthy amount of fear of you. So not returning a book to you would be like...
It has happened. There's 3 people that have borrowed books that I've genuinely loved that have not come back to me. And I know I'm not getting them back. I'm resigned to that. But I also... I know.
It's a hit.
I know, and I remember, and I know.
Yeah, I would not want to be that person.
End up at the bottom of Sydney Harbour, we know what happened.
They're in the
One day
negative
something's going to
on
happen.
the friend rankings. The negatives.
The worst part is I've done the same. Like I've got like books that belong to other people that should have gone back years ago that haven't. But to me, it's just because I'm still borrowing them. They are going back eventually. It just might be, another 3 years.
I have a friend who, if you borrow a book from her, takes your picture with it. So you have to stand in front of her bookshelf with the book, like under your chin, like what are those things called when you get arrested?
Like a mugshot.
Like a mugshot. Yes, exactly right. And then, if
a hostage scenario with the newspaper to proof of life. Like, Jesus.
It's proof of loan, and she gives you 3 months, and then she will send you the picture.
Oh wow, I've not hit that level
yet.
You aspire to, Rudy.
I was going to say.
Told you about it. I think it's going to happen.
I was going to say I just haven't had the right book go missing, or the wrong book, more to the point. But that's not true, because I had Hold Me Down by Victoria Dahl get lent out.
And those books are in print now.
They are. I went looking to see how much it would cost me to replace it in the actual cover that I have, the original covers. And how they go through kind of waves. When I went looking, it was $300 to get that first edition. Oh. I was like, all right, I love them, but not that much.
Jesus.
So eventually.
Actually, I have a very similar thing. I loaned a copy of a book called Shadowfae, and it's by an Australian author called Erica Hayes, and it was a paranormally urban-y fantasy romance. And I loved this book. Everything about her writing really worked for me. It was set in Melbourne. It was just fantastic. It got absolutely smashed by, it must have been Publishers Weekly, or somebody was like, this is the worst book ever. I don't know if you read paranormals, but you shouldn't start with this one. And I was like, I loved this. Anyway, I loaned it out, and because it got smashed so badly, it didn't sell, and it went out of print really quickly. And I'm like, I can never replace that book.
See, that's sad.
Mm.
Adele, what's your book that's gone missing in the world? It's somewhere out there. Oh,
true to form.
That actually
someone borrows a book and doesn't return it. I just presume I've lost it.
It's true, actually. I borrow books from Adele all the time and return them, and she's like, "Oh, did you borrow this?"
I have a brand.
At one point, I ended up with 2 copies of Flowers from the Storm by Laura Kinsale, and I knew that I only owned one of those copies, and I also am 99% sure that I borrowed the other one off a friend of mine, and I tried to give it back to her, and she said it wasn't hers. And so now I don't know what to do.
Your copy cloned itself. You know what it is? It cloned itself so that you can go ahead and pay that forward by giving that book to somebody else who hasn't read it.
You know what, Kate? I haven't read it.
Plot twist.
I have tried 4 times.
Oh my God, what is... No, okay.
I know, and it's beautiful, but it's sad. And I think the furthest I've ever gotten is about just over halfway.
I mean, I try not to judge because, there's a lid for every pot and everybody's reading is different. But, oh my God, I love that book so much. I'm even getting, emotional residue right now just thinking about it.
Well, I can appreciate why people love that book. But somehow, it's like...
Just not that one.
That, I can't think of the term, but there is that term for that thing that is always elusive. It's never quite anyway, it's my that, whatever that is. It's my white whale.
White whale?
It's my Moby Dick. It doesn't make any sense though, because that's also a book.
Oh, yeah.
So in a really nice moment of sibling love, my sister started reading The Duke and I because she wanted to listen to an episode of What Would Danbury Do to understand what we were talking about. And she's been watching the show as well, but she likes the books better. But instead of lending anything to her, she's been listening to them on audiobooks. So I sent her some of my Audible credits.
Do we know who narrates them?
No, and my sister's not a huge fan because of the voices, but she doesn't know really anything about historical romance. So she's been asking me a few questions, and that age-old, is it Viscount or Viscount came up? Which
yes.
is really cute. I just have to correct her. But we've all learnt that at some time or another.
Sometimes there's so much fucking pressure to be like really on top of all of the accuracies and all of the nuance. And like, it's like we've talked about, I don't necessarily know the different time periods. Like, I'm going to call everything Regency because that's a word I know. Is it within the right sort of slice of the 1800s? Whomst can say.
I mean, lots can say. I'm just thinking it there that the whomst is actually
and that's why you're here, Kate. My favourite bonding experience to do with Bridgerton so far is that I've been watching with my mum, and that we were 4 episodes in, and then, because she doesn't know how to work Netflix, so she can't watch unless I'm over. Anyway, not the point. So I was over, and we went for a walk, and we were like having a bit of a chat, and I had been trying really, really hard not to launch into soliloquies about the series and what is different between the books and the show, and all of my thoughts and feelings. But I slipped up and I was saying a couple of things, and she goes, I mean, it's a bit like your romance novels, isn't it?
Oh,
So
sweet.
it is my romance novel. It's one of them spread out across 8.
Pay attention, Mum.
But she's actually really interested in reading them now, but was saying that she'd probably need to do the audiobooks, and so I've been tasked with figuring out how to like share an account or something, because I can't actually leave her in charge of her own audiobook account. It's just, that's dangerous.
Fair.
So Adele, I might have some questions about sharing credit. I can take those offline.
As someone who has a mother who every time I visit her has to close all the apps on her iPad, I feel you.
Mm.
It's pretty tremendous to see people being so excited about a romance series. Like, it has been really exciting to see people excited about a new property, be excited about new talent, be excited about just beautiful costumes and sound, and that's been wonderful. And it can only mean good things for more series, I should hope. Would love to see some Alyssa Cole adapted and other people, but
she's been hinting about something.
Oh my God, if the Reluctant Royals got made,
if it becomes a movie, I'm going to cry.
Yeah, I don't even know that I would be able to like stay inside my skin. I'm pretty sure I would explode.
Also, I've watched with my mum. I've watched with 2 of my friends, and now I'm watching by myself to take notes diligently.
I just found out my friend's husband, who had no knowledge of anything Bridgerton related before the show came out, watched it with her, and she was like, "Yeah," and he's so into it. And so when he knew I did a podcast on it, he got so excited. So we've talked about watching it together and we're doing live commentary together. So yeah, it's just, he's
Gorgeous.
So into it. And I'm like, I'm totally here for straight males really digging Regency romance. And if we've seen anything from the Netflix numbers, is it's not just women watching this. Let's like break down that stereotype. Like, there's something here for everybody.
I think
I love the enthusiasm.
Well, I mean, something that I wish I could remember who I saw talking about this, but I say saw because it was very definitely a tweet. But talking about what this is showing is that it's not that men don't want to watch stories about love. It's that men don't want to have to do it publicly where they might be judged. And so, like, there's a safety to being able to watch this at home. Like, and also I think we're, like, realistically, we are in a time where people just need something that is joyful and fun and, like, yeah.
And colourful as fuck.
Colourful.
Like, this is a chocolate box. Like, it is a pleasure for the ears. It is a pleasure for the eyes. I want to touch all the fabrics they use. Like, I cannot speak more highly of the production crew, the costuming, like the hair. Holy shit. Like the wigs. I didn't know Daphne was wearing a wig. That is purposefully bad. Like, and so is Eloise. I didn't pick that, actually. Of course I did for the Queen, but I think you can see the money they've invested in this, which is considerable.
Lady Featherington has a dressing gown that looks... makes her look like Big Bird, but fashion. And I love it. That's
good.
it. I love it.
She looks fabulous. She's supposed to look bad, but I loved everything she wore.
There's some I wish I could understand, and I think we are going to hopefully talk to somebody who knows fashion, historical fashion things. All I want to know in life is, why do I love the dresses that Lady Featherington wears, even though I know they're meant to look ugly? That's all I want. I just want someone to explain that for me.
In my mind, it was sort of like, to reference Pride and Prejudice, there's a moment when all the sisters turn around in concert with their mother, but the mother, Mrs. Bennet, turns the other way. And I feel like Mrs. Featherington wearing like more prints, but also a different cut of dress is kind of that, like just dancing to her own beat, you know? And it's not good or bad. It's just like her setting herself apart, which seems like there was less judgment on it by being a good dress.
I mean, it's kind of fascinating that she wears these like very eye-catching outfits. When
they're
like
almost like 50s, right?
I don't know fashion.
Yeah, neither.
I was just thinking that like she's married. She's not looking to. She's married, so she's not looking for a husband or anything like that. So when she's wearing these eye-catching outfits, she's obviously wearing them for herself. And there's something like so, I don't know. I just love it. I love it so much. And I know that they're meant to be ugly, but I actually really love ugly things.
That's all for this episode of What Would Danbury Do? We'll be back in a fortnight with Bridgerton Episode 1, Diamond of the First Water. In the meantime, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook as @Bridgerton Pod and Instagram @WWDDpod, or send us an email at bridgertonpod@gmail.com. This episode was recorded on the traditional and unceded land of the Gadigal, Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung people, and edited by our audio producer, Rudi Bremer, on Gadigal country. Thanks for listening, and remember, WWDD.
What Would Danbury Do is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. And now, as promised, a little sample of Eric Ridley's The Duke Heist.
Chloe folded her hands in her lap and did her best not to glare a hole right through the handsome, haughty Duke of Faircliff. All of this would have been much easier if Faircliff would simply return the painting. But addressing his arrogance directly did not work. Chloe and her siblings had pleaded for months in countless letters sent to his home and dozens of humiliating attempts in person. His infuriating loftiness was far too superior to see reason, or commoners like the Winchester siblings. His frigid blue gaze looked right at Chloe, and slid away just as quickly, having glimpsed nothing to attract his interest. How many times had she and Faircliff crossed paths? Hyde Park, Berkeley Square, Westminster. Every disdainful glance in her direction was as indifferent as the last. She lifted her chin. Bean had taught her that. To the right person she would be visible and memorable. Faircliff was clearly the wrong person. Not that she wanted him to notice her, Chloe reminded herself. The continued success of Jane Brown hinged on her uncanny ability to be wholly unremarkable under any circumstances. She gripped the soft muslin of her skirt. Tommy might be an unparalleled genius with disguises, but Chloe needn't do anything at all to blend in and be forgettable. She possessed one of those faces that was at once familiar yet too ordinary to pick out from a crowd. She was neither tall nor short, ugly nor pretty. Nothing about her stood out. Her skin wasn't palest alabaster like Philippa York's or golden bronze like her brother Graham's. She was not thin and willowy like Tommy or pleasingly plump like Elizabeth. Her limp brown hair wasn't spun flax like Marjorie's, or blessed with glossy black curls like Jacob's. Chloe was neutral and dull, with nary even a freckle to add a spot of interest. She was just there, like a dust mote in a shaft of light. Her perpetual insignificance had helped her through scrape after scrape. Chloe would never admit how much she wished, just once, to see a flicker of recognition reflected back at her. Not that her expectations of Faircliff were high. What type of conceited, cold-hearted knave blithely gave away a painting he did not own as a courtship gift? A villain like that could not be trusted or reasoned with. He'd had his chance to deal honourably. Chloe wouldn't beg him for the painting even if she could. At this point, the duplicitous, arrogant blackguard deserved to have it whisked out of his hands. She forced her tense fingers to unclench and folded them in her lap. Soon.